All right, we're with Dr. Doug Graham from foodinsport.com. And Doctor, before the break, we were talking a little bit about the fat, and I wanted to also ask you how the fat reacts when you cook things. And you mentioned earlier about cooking carbohydrates with breads and things like that and pasta. How does cooking affect our health, and what does it do to the food that's such a problem inside our bodies?
Well, several different things happen when you heat fats, but one of them is that they become sticky. The chemistry changes in such a fashion that they become sticky. They stick to everything. They are far less able to be utilized by the body once you heat the fat. In fact, proteins and fats develop bonds that are called cross-linked. And when we see the proteins cross-link, they literally become enzyme-resistant bonds. Whereas the fats, what we see happen when you heat fats, primarily what is affected are its antioxidant qualities. And so we oxidize the fats, we drive the oxygen off of them, we destroy the antioxidants, the natural antioxidants that are in the fats, and then we literally create carcinogenic substances. I remember back, I was in college when I first saw a picture of a bunch of food on a grill, steaks on a grill, basically hot dogs and hamburgers on a grill, and the information underneath, well-referenced information underneath, saying that when we heat the fats, they go carcinogenic, and that basically grilling causes cancer. Depends on the degree of heat. Obviously, the higher the heat and the more time you expose them to heat, the more the cancer-causing agents get going. But you also develop what are known as mutagens when you heat fats. And once again, this is exactly what it sounds like. It makes it increasingly difficult for the cells to reproduce themselves according to their original template. You enhance the production of mutation. This is counter to all requirements for health. So, I mean, heating fats is counterproductive as it can possibly be.
What do you think is worse, heating a fat or heating a protein or a carbohydrate? I guess it would depend on what fat, protein, and carbohydrate you're heating, wouldn't it? And how you're heating it.
Well, I think it's like, which is worse, shooting yourself in the leg or in the foot, or in the hand or in the head?
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing is that, once again, we go back to nutrition and look at it as evaluated by food rather than looking at food and evaluating it by nutrition, because we call bread a carbohydrate food, but it's got proteins in it and it's got fats in it. And we call a banana a carbohydrate food, but it's got proteins and carbohydrates, and there are very few fatty. Even an avocado has carbohydrate and protein. So when you say, if you're heating fats or heating proteins or whatever, you're really heating foods, and they have all those chemistry is inherent in them, along with all their antioxidants and all the phytonutrients, and all of those things are affected adversely through if you think back to the commercial back in the 70s, there was an old TV commercial where this guy drops an egg on a frying pan, and it says, "This is your brain on cooked food." Oh yeah, well, what happens is it's basically the Humpty Dumpty story, isn't it? It's when the egg hits the frying pan, chemical changes happen that are irreversible. Okay, enzyme-resistant bonds form, double-linked and triple-linked proteins, cross-linked proteins, and the body can't break these down. They become indigestible and they become carcinogenic as we apply more heat, because the body does not recognize them as usable proteins. Now, granted, they said this is your brain on drugs, I understand, but they might have just as well said this is your brain on cooked food, because you become the same zombie either way.
Yeah, I remember that, and it was just a real dramatic commercial, and So you're a proponent of whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic. And you know what's interesting is I feel like a lot of people understand organic now. It's starting to get more in the mainstream. The whole, fresh, ripe, I think, is... I
think Whole Foods fools more people than you would think.
I think so, yeah.
We use words like whole wheat bread and think it's a whole food. Or we steam a whole cauliflower and think we're eating a whole food, but we're not. By the time you've steamed it, you've changed it dramatically. You've driven off the water. You've broken cell membranes. It's not the same as what it was. And whole food is really whole. And it's an interesting thing. You know, I've spent hours talking about whole foods. Can you imagine what an animal without their associated nutrients?
I'm sorry, Doug, you cut out. You said, can you imagine? And then it cut out.
Can you imagine what an empty calorie is? We use the phrase empty calories.
Right.
You know, and empty calories are calories without their associated nutrients. But nobody uses the phrase empty nutrients. Nutrients that have been separated from their associated nutrients or separated from their associated calories. And these are just as important. A vitamin A tablet isn't a nutrient. Come on. This is an isolated, pharmaceutically pure, endless shelf life, meaning it can't go bad because it's already gone bad. It couldn't be more refined than what we call a supplement. I don't think of these as supplements at all, and they're certainly not part of a whole food diet.
Right.
And so when we look at empty calories and people go, oh, well, sugar is an empty calorie. Yes, of course, we understand that white sugar or white flour can be looked at as empty calories, but so can a bottle of oil because it's a calorie source and it's been stripped of all its associated nutrients. So could a can of protein powder.
Right.
It's protein without its other nutrients. It is empty calories. And I'm really big on... Basically, what I'm talking about is back to basics. I'm taking what the scientists have told us and what the hipsters have told us since we got interested in this stuff, which was eat whole foods, fresh is best, bottled, bag, boxed, canned, frozen, fresh is best, and that ripe foods always taste better than their unripe counterparts and they're more nutritious for us. Eat plants, folks. Organic is the best way to go. It's the way we've always gone throughout history, except in the last 60 years. There's only been conventional produce for the last 60 years. And it's an experiment that we tried. It failed. It's time to stop and go back to organic. You know, humans are brilliant. We have the ability to say, I wonder what if, and then we can follow through on that. I wonder what would happen if I split this atom. Well, we can find out. And then some experiments, we go, you know what? Let's not pursue this any further. The answer to our nutritional problems is not deeper and deeper nutritional chemistry and deeper nutritional technology. The answer is to go back to basics. Nature already set up a perfect plan that has gone on for millions, if not billions of years, and animals have survived and plants have survived brilliantly through that time. Whole, fresh, ripe, raw, organic plants. The scientists tell us eat 10% fat as a maximum. The sports scientists tell us eat 10% fat as a maximum. The health professionals tell us